The US President Joe Biden will speak with Chinese leader Xi Jinping later today, and he said he will raise concerns over Taiwan and, quote, economic coercion of countries like Australia. The video conference will be the first time the two leaders have met face-to-face since the Biden administration assumed office in January. Joining me live now is Mick Mulvaney, Donald Trump's former Chief of Staff. Good to see you once again. First of all, can you set the scene for us? What is going on in America? Because you're starting to live with COVID. Joe Biden, the polls are looking really bad for him. You're a year out from the midterms. How's it all looking?
Yeah, thanks, Laura, for having me, and good morning. What's going on in America is a really long answer, so I'll try and hit on a couple of different things. Economically, inflation is really starting to hit here. I was in California over the weekend. It was $5 a gallon of gas in California. That's $2 or $3 more than what it was 12 months ago. We're going in now to our Thanksgiving and our American Thanksgiving week. With shortages of staple goods in grocery stores because of the supply chain difficulties. So while certain things are going very well in the economy, inflation is real, and the restrictions on getting goods and services to market is real. Politics is very topsy-turvy right now. We had it's not a by-election, but we had an election, off-year elections in Virginia and New Jersey. I guess it's a week ago now, maybe 2 weeks ago now, and it was a monumental disaster for the Democrats. The closest thing I think I can explain to your audience would be what happened in your by-elections in 2018 in Wentworth. No one expected the Republicans to come nearly as close as they did in New Jersey. Of course, they won the governor's office in Virginia. The last time we saw something like that around here was the beginning of the Tea Party movement.
Wow.
You take all of that, and today you've got the discussion. I believe it'll be actually taking place right now, or in the next couple of minutes. It will begin the first formal conversations between President Biden and President Xi. They will be talking about Taiwan. They will be talking a little bit about Australia, I understand. They will not be talking about export tariffs. They will not be talking about the economic barriers the Trump administration put up. So it's going to be interesting to see what is and isn't discussed tonight. But there's not unusual a lot of things going on in the United States of America right now.
Indeed. And look, it's such an interesting contrast. Donald Trump was so bolshy against China, talking about their economic coercion, but he never really got a meeting with President Xi like this. Joe Biden is getting somewhat of a meeting. It's kind of been foreshadowed as something quite cordial. But I mean, is he really going to get the outcomes? Is that where the doubt with voters comes when it comes to Biden?
Yeah, no, keep in mind, we did meet. In fact, I was in the meetings that President Trump met with President Xi at least once, I believe, at the G20 in Osaka. There may have been others. I know there were phone conversations as well. And we met regularly with high-ranking trade delegation members. So the conversations were regular. The difference, I think, the primary difference between the Biden administration and the Trump administration is less on policy and more on language. The Biden administration language is much warmer. It's much more conciliatory. But what I stress to my friends in Australia when I talk to them is that there are very few things in Washington, D.C. right now that have true bipartisan support. And an antipathy towards China is one of those things. The Republicans don't trust China. The Democrats don't trust China. And I think you'll see that come through in the conversations tonight. Will the language be different than it was with Donald Trump? Yes. There'll be overt threats of trade wars and tariffs and so forth? Probably not. Will there be more discussion of human rights abuses? Yes, there probably will be. But at the bottom, I don't think the policies are going to be very different between what President Xi hears from President Biden tonight and what he heard from President Trump last year.
Yeah, you're right. The language could never be the same as Donald Trump. He certainly had his own turn of phrase. It's not going to be mimicked by Joe Biden. But given where the domestic political situation, as you describe it, is at the moment, does Joe Biden need to come out of this meeting at least trying to sell some kind of significant win?
I don't think I don't think this is where you get a significant win in American sort of politics. You don't have a conversation with the Chinese that moves your approval rating more than a point or two, if that. My guess is that most folks who follow the industry and follow politics and follow business are watching the conversations tonight. But folks are mostly going about having their dinner time. It's 7 o'clock here in the United States. Don't really care about this conversation. If anything, I think what Biden needs to do in the meeting tonight is display competence. The president has a crisis of confidence right now, not only in his own party, but with the larger electorate and the country at large whether or not he's capable of doing the job of president. Not because of his age, but just because of his abilities. He's not proven very adept at handling COVID, certainly was not adept at handling the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And that has filtered through to the political outcomes, as we saw in those off-year elections in New York, in New Jersey and Virginia. So I think, if anything, if I'm in the White House tonight and I'm the chief of staff to President Biden, I want him to look, act, seem, and be competent on top of things. And I want President Xi to get the message that the president is in charge, he knows what's going on, and that he's a force to deal with. If they get the impression that the president really isn't running the show and that the president's not capable of doing the job, that does not bode well for the relationship between the two countries.
Mick, look, Joe Biden, when he came into office, he was meant to calm things down. He was kind of talked about as being the less divisive leader, but America seems more divided than at any time at the moment. Is that a correct way to view things?
Yeah, I think it is. And I don't entirely blame Joe Biden. Joe Biden, I know the president, and left to his own devices, I think he is the type of person who would try and do deals and bring people together. Keep in mind, he's not the same person 20 years ago. Again, not his abilities physically or mentally, but his party is different. He is not as commanding a presence as he was in the party 20 years ago. Most people in this country did not vote for Joe Biden. They either voted for Donald Trump or against Donald Trump. It's very unusual in our recent history. And he came into office, President Biden did, without much political capital. So he's not really able to steer his party in the direction that he might want it to go. So he does come to the table without a lot of the tools that a newly elected president would have. And I think he's now looking for a success. If he can get this thing with China, that would be great. If they could get that, he had an infrastructure win last week. He got a major piece of legislation passed over some folks, including myself, who didn't think he could. Whether or not that helps him remains to be seen. He's got a little bit of momentum. But again, he's dug himself a pretty deep hole. We're coming into the holidays where people stop paying attention. I think he needs to finish strong with China tonight and then start building towards 2022.
Mick Mulvaney, 2022 is not too far away, as we know. It's been a long 2 years as well. The midterm's fast approaching. Great to talk to you, and we'll be speaking to you on a regular basis. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Laura.